You may have heard it said that we are living in a simulation, that reality itself is a simulation. But what does this mean? And perhaps more importantly, if this is true, if reality really is a simulation, then how do we actually apply this information? How do we use this information strategically to become better participants, better players within the game of reality? Last year, Shweta, my colleague at the School of Imagination and also a frequent guest and contributor on this channel, began to study a form of simulation theory. And as her research deepened, she made a surprising discovery that reshapes our understanding of simulation mechanics. Through a massive upgrade in the fluency of the programming language of the simulation. As it turns out, reality is not only perhaps best described as a simulation, there's also fundamental equations behind the simulation that cause what we experience, cause the reality that we interact with our five senses, to be generated with mathematical precision. Shweta began to share some of her research into these ideas with me, and I quickly began to realize that what she had discovered is not only life-changing for those who take the time to understand these perspectives, but also potentially world-changing. And so it became clear that we needed to make these ideas available to a larger audience. And we started to talk about what that might look like. After several months of discussions about this simulation mechanics approach, we really kind of landed on this essential concept that it's not enough to simply learn the terms or the perspectives associated with simulation mechanics. It's best if we actually make it practical. And the best way to make it practical is to actually practice applying daily these ideas, practice applying daily what we are now calling the natural intelligence optimization system. So based on this, I asked Shweta to convert her research into a 13-week live training where students will not only study the theory of simulation mechanics, but apply the key principles to their lives over an extended period of time, 13 weeks, which comes out to approximately 99 days. So naturally, this simulation mechanics class will start next month as part of the 99-day Brave Mystic Training Bootcamp. And today, as a special treat for channel members here on the Josiah Brandt YouTube channel, I have asked Shweta to preview her 13-week course and to share not only some of the key ideas and takeaways, but also some of her experiences from the ways that she has put this information into practice. So before I invite Shweta on, a quick bio on Shweta. Shweta is, perhaps above all other things, a consciousness researcher, absolutely fascinated from her earliest years with all things consciousness and mystic wisdom. In 2019, she enrolled at the School of Imagination in the 99-day Next Level Neville course and graduated with honors, and then joined our faculty as a historian and archivist. In 2020, Shweta taught a 6-class Science and Neville series, mapping out the teachings of Neville Goddard to cutting-edge discoveries in the field of physics. In 2022, Shweta was our guide for the Mad Mystic Tour of Manhattan, a one-day bus tour in New York City, focused on the rich history of Neville's life in New York and attended by guests from all over the world. Shweta, let's get you on here. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I've been very much looking forward to this, and I know the channel has as well.
Oh my God, thank you. Lovely intro. Also gorgeous intro video. It took a second to kind of it landed very beautifully. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And you outlined it very well that, there's a lot of people that talk about how this is a simulation, but what are the implications of that? And that's what I'm super excited to share here as someone who's been part of this Neville journey with you and so many others in the community for a long time now, for years now. So
absolutely, yeah. Okay, so I asked you to take some of these ideas and formulate them into a training program. And then I asked you to create a preview, but also I really wanted you to share kind of framed through your story, right? Because it's like the ideas themselves are, I mean, you've been sharing some of this with me and it's just been blowing me away, the implications, right? But you've also been developing it for longer than what you and I have been talking about it. And you've been applying it to your own personal life for a while now and have been sharing some amazing stories. So I'm so excited to hear what you have to share
It's
with us
exciting
today.
because I've always been an
Yeah.
experimenter at
Mm,
heart. When from my earliest memories, I could tell I was a true skeptic in that I could tell that the ways in which reality was being sold to me just didn't seem right. So I
mm,
was experimenting with reality with all kinds of different results since I
mm,
was a kid. So this specific kind of framework that I'm excited to share, I think helps those of us that want to better understand what's underneath the curtain. We're not satisfied anymore with just those surface level answers, which were good for a while. But as we navigate and we become those brave mystics, you navigate this terrain, you realize there's something more underneath the surface. There's more that we need to navigate and understand this
mm,
effectively. There's more we need to understand about ourselves and the mechanics of everything.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to get into it. Shall we go ahead and get the presentation up here?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
put some slides together, nothing super formal. Wanted to kind of outline how we got here, what I learned, and why I think it's exciting for other conscious creators out there who might have been, who I know actually being part of this community are having the same questions and struggles. So I just put some things together here and we can flow through it.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you go ahead
Yeah.
and give us your preview, and then at the end, we will take questions from the comments. So for all of you channel members who are live with us on the stream right now, feel free to, consider what kind of questions you might have to help land your understanding of this, and then we'll have a little bit of time at the end to get to those. Okay, Shweta, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, incredible. So what I want to start with is, when you look around, whether it's great like figures like Elon Musk or Nick Bostrom or all kinds of different physicists, different important thinkers in different fields are coming to the conclusion that maybe we live in a simulation, whatever that means. We might live in an artificially constructed reality or a constructed reality. Forget about the word artificial, but we might live in a constructed reality of some kind. And what they're referring to is that there might be some underlying code, logic, algorithm, equation under reality. And the reason physicists are getting to this conclusion is because that seems very logical. Josiah and I did a live stream for Neville and Chill where we talked about how Sam Altman was, he asked, Sam Altman being the founder of OpenAI, asked 4.5, ChatGPT 4.5, what, what do you believe is the truth about consciousness? And the logical explanation that ChatGPT had was, hey, it's primordial. It's the only true reality. It sounded almost like Neville-esque, the response that ChatGPT had, and that's because this idea of this idea that consciousness exists in a simulation, that we live in a simulation like reality, is almost like a logical explanation. It solves for a lot of paradoxes. So that's something I want to lay out there, that we're having this conversation based on understanding that consciousness is primordial. But there's great thinkers out there from the material world that are also seeing that maybe we live in a simulation here. So it's not just us, it's not just the consciousness seekers that are seeing this connection. I think it's important for us to realize that the whole world is trying to wake up to different parts of the puzzle. And the question is, are we living in a simulation? And my answer is yes. So for all intents and purposes, we can actually say that we are living in a simulation. And as every simulation we see out here, whether that's various digital tools or artificial intelligence or virtual reality, they're just abstractions, meaning like they're just, lower quality versions of the true simulation we live in. And that's what we're going to explore today. But do you mind going to the next slide?
Yeah,
To
let's
back
go.
up here a little, how did I start exploring this? As Josiah said, I've been interested in experimenting with consciousness for a really long time, and experimenting with law of attraction principles, law of assumption, and I started to kind of realize that I had hit and miss results. So it wasn't it wasn't, it felt that like while life in certain areas gave me incredibly uh, immediate feedback on my intentions, other areas felt resistant. And I'm sure all of us, that are listening to this, that have practiced Neville's teachings and other teachings in this space, can relate to that. And so the questioning period after the beginner's luck started to overtake me after years of exploring this, and I had a ton of questions around, around why things are the way they are that did not have clear answers. And even when, and I spent hours on this, I mean, years actually, every day, I would go into Neville books and I'd be like, why did this happen? And I was, using my Kindle to search specific terms and really trying to make sense of this. And so if you go to the next slide, I started hitting a wall. Why were some things effortless and other things not effortless? Why did certain patterns repeat, even though I had cleared out that the root of it through revision? Why were they still repeating? Why did some things take unexpected detours where you're like, wait, what? How did this happen? I never thought that for one. I thought my thoughts create reality. I thought my assumptions create reality. That's not what happened here. And I just noticed that even though there were a ton of incredible teachers out there, and we were sharing, there's a ton of incredible coaches out there. What was missing was a structure, a system. There was the law, which is whatever's within is expressed outwards, and that was a great initial understanding. But then that's basics, right? That's basic input output. What underlies that? What expands upon that? And I could tell that there was more to be discovered here. And what I did, is really interesting because I've done this for years now, probably since I discovered Neville. One of my favorite manifesting techniques and the most satisfying and fulfilling is manifesting answers. So answers to questions, answers to, confusions, answers to paradoxes that in manifesting. So what I did, and this is how, programs have been developed, meaning my Science and Neville program and the Mad Mystic tour, all I did was go to the end and say, I understand now. Oh my God, now I understand. I understand so much better now. And so I did that because the questions, the paradoxes, the cognitive dissonance was starting to consume me. And I see that in the community as well. You go on Reddit, there's Neville Goddard critics. There's, all kinds of people that have tried these teachings, been dismayed, been confused, been thrown off after, maybe they got some success, beginner's luck in some areas, and fall flat on their face in other areas, and then throw away everything, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I did not want to do that. So I was like, I feel like I'm at my breaking point of confusion right now. Let me go to the end of imagining having the answer. And if there's anything you can take away from this conversation, I would take away that anytime you have a confusion, go to the end of understanding. And reality has no choice but to give you those answers in ways you would never have expected. And what this did for me is it led me to a deeper exploration of, yes, consciousness, but the concept of intelligence and how intelligence leads to creation. And when I say intelligence, this is something I want to explore in the program more. It's not just about what you know. It's not factual. Your intelligence is the mechanism behind how you create in this reality. And that's what I'm really excited to explore in this conversation, but also in the program. So this led me to a deeper exploration of the role of intelligence in reality creation. And as I started looking around and AI started taking a strong foothold, I couldn't ignore it, and none of us can, right? The rise of AI has been a singularity event. Singularity events change history as we know it. They're the events that change all of reality. It pulls it in. That's how important AI as a discovery is. It's a singularity event, and it changes history's timeline. So I knew I had to pay attention to it, and I started playing around with AI as a consumer. I was just as skeptical as everybody else. I was kind of back and forth. But what really stood out to me is, AI is generating outputs based on my inputs. So I have prompts that I structure, I structure in a certain way. And the AI takes that prompt and creates an output. And it seemed simplistic, but I was like, isn't that how manifestation works? That's interesting. And the how the intelligence, this particular system, how does it create great inputs? Well, it's coded, it's weighted, and it's optimized. I started learning and researching about how do AI programmers optimize that intelligence so that the ideal outputs come. So the programmer sits down, they create an artificial intelligence system that, the artificial intelligence system is an intelligence system that iterates, learns, grows. It takes a life of its own, but they put some presets and parameters. How are they getting the ideal output that the prompter and programmer want? They do it because they encode the right stuff in it. They encode the right parameters and presets. And so for some reason that like landed, and I wish I could remember the very first moment. Sometimes when I look back at my breakthrough moments, like when did I first learn about Neville? When did I can't remember the very first point, and I wish I could. But it's some reason I was like, maybe our reality mechanics work the way artificial intelligence takes inputs and creates outputs. And maybe it does it through intelligence. I'm not saying human intelligence, but maybe conscious. And so I just basically what I'm saying is I saw this understanding of how artificial intelligence works as the missing puzzle piece. And even putting aside my concerns maybe about the environment, or putting aside my concerns about it taking jobs away, putting aside my concerns in general, I saw it objectively as something that held a clue about how reality works.
Absolutely. So this is what you brought to me. I mean, you're going to develop it a little bit further here, but this is what you brought to me. You're like, hey, this is a new conceptual framework for mapping out mystic teachings in particular. Conceptual framework for mapping out mystic teachings. And that conceptual framework, I mean, artificial intelligence is really patterned on natural intelligence, right? The neural networks that create artificial intelligence in a way where, we're seeing all of these products coming out of it. Those neural networks are patterned on our scientists' best understanding of how human neural networks and how human intelligence works. And you've now taken these ideas and begun to map them onto mystic teachings, mystic wisdom about the simulation itself.
Exactly. And it wasn't hard, meaning as I started to understand basic AI optimization principles, I was like, that makes perfect sense that it applies to how our inputs should be optimized. The parallels were uncanny. It wasn't a big leap. I started realizing, holy crap, the way that, so the simulation theory thing that I saw floating around from Elon and all these other people started to make more sense. It started to take more hold. I'm like, this makes perfect sense. And so I mapped it out. I was researching it, going on Google, using ChatGPT, using different AI systems, and learning about the history of AI and what artificial intelligence really means. It became basically, I want to say, because people who are researchers at heart know what it's like. You when you're interested in something, it's hours of your time. You're going deep within. You're interested in what everyone else has to say about it. You hoard the information, you analyze, you think about it later. So I went deep because I knew that this held the answers, and spent months mapping this out and making perfect sense, Josiah, of years of manifestation struggle. Like I had, because I'm a documenter too. So for 7 years, I had all these manifestations, stories, failures, ups and downs that I didn't have answers to. And now with this, mapping out the system, it gave so much more light. It was like a flashlight. Oh, that's why that happened there. And there's a sense of precision, a sense of like up leveling. It's like, it was, I kind of cringe at terms like this sometimes, quantum leap, but that is exactly what this did. And I think even a basic understanding of some of the mechanics can do that for people. If you've been on this path, you've been manifesting, you've been learning about who you truly are and exploring your identity and your purpose, even understanding the basics of this can transform and add clarity and precision to your process.
So this is the angle that I really think is so important. So, having been on a mystic path myself, having been practicing with manifestation for a long time, it felt like I had a pretty good grasp of how reality works as a mirror to my state of being. And yet there were certain things, certain areas, certain concepts, certain parts of my life, certain relationships, whether it be to people, places, things, circumstances, events, just relationships between my consciousness and my world, there were certain things that it felt like I was not getting a precise reflection. It's like, why does this particular little area of my life feel stuck? Like, why does, I keep revisioning it, I keep reimagining, I keep doing all of the things that all the work, all the things that
Yeah.
mystics tell us to do, all the things that I teach. But it kind of seemed like, 90% of the time, reality gives you exactly a pure reflection of your state of being. And then maybe 10% of the time, something unexpected or unaccounted for happens where
Mm-hmm.
it's not immediately obvious. But
Mm-hmm.
when we started talking about this, Shweta, you started to reveal this perspective, this natural intelligence optimization system or programming language, where you
Mm-hmm.
started to kind of map out how, especially in those areas where we're getting unexpected results, especially in those areas, the algorithm of reality is working with mathematical precision, and it is only our lack of understanding of what it's doing and how it's doing it that yields a feeling of frustration or stuckness. It's really only a lack of understanding. It has nothing to do with reality being broken or inconsistent. No, reality is actually the most consistent, most mathematically precise mechanism to generate reality, to generate our experiences. But we have to understand what goes into it, the inputs, and then how those inputs are processed to generate
Mm-hmm.
the outputs. So as we were talking about this and you started to share some of your revelations on this, both the ideas and then also how you were applying them, I started to see it in my own life. I was like, oh my God, this one thing that I've been working on, for years, that feels like it's like I'm kind of getting a little bit of progress, but certainly not as much as I've been imagining, at least not in results. Oh, actually, when I kind of pull back the veil and look at the machine, now I see that reality's not broken. I was just lacking some understanding about how it's being generated. So I've already
Oh my
seen
God, love
breakthrough
it.
from
That's
this. Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. And that makes perfect sense. So I would say, we to use AI terms, we walk around as conscious creators most of the time in prompter mode. And I'm going to get into this a little
Mm,
deeper. Meaning we give intentions, we're in surface level thinking, we are in the day-to-day moment. And I don't mean present moment and present moment awareness. I mean, we're in the day-to-day, hubbub of the, 3D reality. So we're in prompter mode. And so sometimes we find ourselves stuck in something because we're in prompter mode. We're not in programmer mode,
mm,
programming something deep and redefining something. We instead are trying to get the system that already exists to work in our favor. And we haven't gotten that deep. And so that's incredibly important to consider. The other thing I think is an interesting angle is that, Neville always framed, he didn't talk about failure very much because what you focus on grows. Okay. So he had a couple of chapters where he talked about failure that I've poured through like, like my life depends on it over and over. And what he said was failure is a lack of essentially the state being natural. The reason you fail is because it isn't natural to you. And as someone, he was a dancer, he was a Broadway actor, he could speak live in front of thousands of people. He knew the Bible like the back of his hand. He understood narrative structure. He's an artist, is what I'm trying to say. So for him, taking states on is incredibly natural. What I started to realize with this work is why there's a gap between certain mystics and certain, or it appears to be a gap between certain kinds of thinkers and other thinkers. It's because every single person has a different natural intelligence framework. Natural intelligence operating system is how I like to call it. It's a cute term, NIOS. And every single one of us has a different idea, different way of making something feel natural to us. And different presets and parameters. So what I feel that what I'm offering here and what I found out helps make ideal states more natural. It kind of fills that thing. It reduces failure rates as because of what Neville said. Neville correctly identified that it's not natural to you, but now it answers how to make it natural. Because what Neville would say is, hey, imagine the state with every tone of reality. I'm starting to realize all human beings are different in how they do that.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. You ready for the next one?
I am.
Okay.
So artificial intelligence. Why does intelligence matter? You know, if you listen to Florence Scovel Shinn or so many other new thought teachers, other mystics, they'll talk about this divine intelligence. And same with Hinduism. All kinds of dharmic texts talk about there being an intelligence at work. So how does that tie to consciousness? Consciousness is our awareness. Intelligence is the mechanism that creates, you know? So you essentially, it's not just your thoughts create reality, it's that who you are is an intelligence mechanism that facilitates that experience, facilitates the state that you're creating, the state that you're in, to that and expands that into your reality, depending on, depending on your state. So the way intelligence is programmed, and I don't, and I, as a part of this program, we're going to learn what intelligence actually means. It doesn't mean IQ. It does not mean how smart you are, how many facts you know, what college you went to, none of that. Absolutely. We have to redefine all of these terms. But it started to realize that conscious creation and AI was starting to make me realize that intelligence is a factor here in terms of what's going on here algorithmically, what's going on here logically, what are the coding within me. And reality operates in this input output framework like AI. I started to realize that, okay, so what I believe creates externally, so that matches there. And this was one of my biggest breakthroughs. And we kind of covered what the implications, as Josiah said, as to why this is important. Because even, even if you've been here and you've been doing this for years and you've had success in different areas, there are those stuck areas. So this was a big breakthrough on that. And then I have a next slide on a little bit more detail. So I mentioned this earlier, that most of us walk around in prompter mode. And what I mean by that is we are reactive. We have like surface level desires. We have desires, but we sort of intend to it, but we haven't gone deep enough into the layers of consciousness, the layers of intelligence that we have to make that likely. So let's think about an artificial intelligence system that was not programmed for what you want. So let's say this artificial intelligence system is really phenomenal at outputting beautiful images of cats. And so you try to say, okay, can you please create a monkey? What it will do is what it knows how to do. It might have heard of a monkey. It might have some idea of what a monkey is. It'll output an image of a cat that doesn't much look like a monkey, but maybe a couple of things. That's what's going on in your reality when you're prompting without reprogramming. It doesn't have that familiarity. It doesn't have the built-in logic yet to create that. So it's doing some kind of abstraction. It's doing a version of it. It's doing an iteration of it. It's not satisfying, and you're not building off that feedback loop. The other thing that I thought was a breakthrough moment of this is the idea of firewalls and filters. So I call this system blocks, but I started to realize that the things that were not moving for me at all, I had an invisible firewall up. This is an AI term, but it's also just a software application term that, I was blocking the whole experience because of unconsciously. And I started realizing the concept that in AI of probability weighting was incredibly important. What I considered most likely, what constantly happened to me, what's the most likely stuff that happened to me was the stuff that was most weighted in my reality. So basically what I'm getting at here is learning how artificial intelligence optimizes input output made me have the biggest breakthroughs on what was going on, my biggest struggles on this journey. And I kind of wanted to go back to what Josiah was saying earlier around, she was talking about how our input output like cycle can get confusing. And you're like, well, I've tried so much in this area. These filters, all of these end up mapping out almost like a diagnostic. That's the word I was looking for. It ends up being, this ended up helping me create a diagnostic of what was going on within me, and then change accordingly.
Okay, so that's a game changer. This idea of a diagnostic is a game changer, because before having a lens like this through which to view the simulation mechanics, there really isn't a diagnostic tool other than kind of going in and being like, okay, my results tangibly do not appear to be matching my intention. So let me go deeper into my intention, or let me, take more time out to consciously imagine what I want. Let me continue to put in more inputs, right? That being the key idea. Let me continue to add more inputs.
Yeah.
And what you're bringing here is like, okay, hold on. Let's pause on the inputs. Let's run a diagnostic. Let's figure out the ways in which the results that we're getting are mirroring with mathematical precision who we're being. Let's see ourselves both as the prompter and the programmer. And then let's identify what's happening so we can make changes at the correct layer of reality to make it natural.
Exactly. It's what AI programmers and any programmer would call debugging. So now you start seeing everything in your reality that isn't ideal, isn't coherent, because coherence is a very important aspect of creation. If something doesn't feel right, it's not coherent. If something feels off, it's not coherent. And you can debug that. And you see that as a debugging opportunity instead of you get the diagnostic, you debug, and you move forward with a new iteration of your intelligence and a better result at the end of the day. And so, I have to say, and I think I have a slide on this, but what this really did for me, this breakthrough, is instead of counting my success and my progress about outcomes, oh, I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that, I manifested this, I have manifested that. And I always did that because that's how this world is. We judge ourselves based on our external accomplishments. And so I counted my success based on that in the past. This completely transformed that, upended that to me, realizing my progress is my optimization of my intelligence, of who I am. So no matter what the cyclical world, as Neville would say, the wheel of recurrence, no matter what the wheel of recurrence tries to throw at me, I've up leveled. I've gone up the spiral. I have, up leveled. So I have become a different person. So my reality, expresses itself differently. My reality projects differently. The simulation mechanics are different just because I reacted differently. So I cannot understate, honestly. I want to be measured. I was telling Josiah about this. I want to be measured about what this has done for me, but I can't overstate. I cannot overstate what a big transformation it's been, because as you can see in the slide, instead of it being about the outcomes, now it's about who I am at any given moment and what I'm doing at any given moment. And that has made life so much more fun, so much more enjoyable, so much more about, like, not self-centered, but my self-concept has taken over, and this is something that I read about. Neville talked about the importance of self-concept, but understanding the framework like this has put the order of operations in the right manner. It's me, my system, my intelligence, what I'm optimized for, and then the reality. If I don't figure that out first, there's no point going outwards. And what this did for me is give me the biggest gift ever, is being less triggered about external circumstances. I know because I'm on the Neville Reddit, I'm in the community because I like to know what's going on, and I love case studies, if I'm honest with you. So I love to be a little nosy and see what everyone's doing. We're struggling with not being triggered. This system helps you not be triggered. Now, every time I'm triggered, I see it as a debugging opportunity, and it's a game changer. And what I noticed is it added structure. So this system, even though Neville, the law, by the way, this just adds the mechanics to the law. This does not go against what Neville's framework is. It just adds color to it. Truly, it just adds color to it. It just makes it a bit more dimensional. It adds a bit more, quite a bit more meat to the table, and explain some of the paradoxes. But it lights up what Neville said in just for 2025. We're at the new level now, 2025 level. If Neville knew artificial intelligence, I would love to have a conversation with him about it. But yeah, so any thoughts before I continue riffing on stuff?
Yeah, real quick here. So this idea of shifting from manifesting specific outcomes to optimizing intelligence, this is a leading edge conversation in the manifestation, consciousness, mystic communities. The legacy paradigm is to focus on manifesting specific outcomes, to measure results in the mirror and say, okay, either I'm doing it right, or I need to try harder or do it a different way. That's the old paradigm way of looking at it. The new paradigm is summarized in these two words: optimizing intelligence. And it's not just this idea of local intelligence, as Shweta was saying. It's not about how smart I am. It's about realizing that the reality generation mechanism that is this simulation that we're living in is intelligent. It is a part of us. It's not outside of us. It's all one system. It's all one intelligent system. And so this is a way of learning how to speak, how to speak to and also work with this greater intelligence that encompasses that larger aspect of our being, which is the simulation that creates the sensory experiences that we have that we call our daily living reality. It's all an intelligent system. And there's, prompter mode, there's programmer mode, there's layers to it. So this is a way of beginning to sync with that greater intelligence.
I would agree. It actually is a syncing. It feels like a syncing of, syncing to this, deeper dimensional self, as now we'll put it, higher self. There is an intelligence at play, and this helps me sync to it. And I have experimented with this at length for a year, like very, very long. So those of you that will join the program, I cannot wait to share the results, the wild results of the experimentation, and the tools that I came up from this. But anyway, either way, this is a very exciting combo, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. So we will go to the next slide. So one thing we can agree on here, and I think a lot of us that have been on Reddit or have been in the community can see that the manifestation community lacks a bit of a clear structure. There's all kinds of beautiful teachers out there, but in terms of what they're sharing, there's a they only take it to a certain point. We need to go to the next level here. And what people are looking for, including me, are testable mechanics, things that are consistent, stuff you can rely on, and not just a belief system that feels good, that has mixed results. And I see this as Josiah said, as an intelligence upgrade. And we need to start thinking of things like that. Forget about the output. Just like when you look at an AI system, it creates beautiful imagery, but are we attached to the imagery? No, we're attached to the intelligence so that it continues creating the outcomes that we want. That's how we need to think about ourselves, not just artificial intelligence. We need to see ourselves as the most intricate, amazing, incredible intelligence system that we need to upgrade. So, and I believe that the system that I have identified and mapped out can help you do that. So yeah, I also believe this, and this is wild to say, I would not say this unless I believe this 10 toes down. I believe that this leads you to greater precision and more success in manifesting. For me, for a while, I could not figure out, because I knew that 1 + 1 = 2 is not the equation of manifesting. So I knew that it wasn't black and white like that. But I also couldn't accept that it was just mystical, traditional, maybe some higher, the pat answers that wasn't just meant for you. Sorry. Like those never satisfied me. So I needed that explanation. And so that's what this does. And if you are that kind of thinker, you need structure, you need the mechanics, you need precision, then the program, the real you, it would be a great right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll talk more about that at the end. But the basic idea here is, this is the overview. It is a framework, but the real magic is in applying this in daily life, applying these frameworks and going through the process, being guided through the process. So that's why after having many months of conversations about this, I was like, Shweta, this needs to be a training. And we settled on a 99-day training and 13-week training. And we decided to wrap it into the Brave Mystic training experience, the Brave Mystic training boot camp. It's a boot camp because it's real world application. This is not just a sit back and watch a video. This is a learn a technique, next day, apply it, come back, report what happened, right? So a training, a boot camp. So we'll talk more about that at the end, but let's continue here. Let me get you next slide. Go ahead.
And I don't want to belabor the point, but so AI, the reason AI excited me, and the simulation mechanics I'm going to share is not just about what I learned from AI optimization principles. It's way bigger than that. But I can say that the reason AI inspired this is because I started realizing that the way that AI creates ideal outputs that we actually want as prompters, is because of the training data and how it's optimized. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So that means that if we are individual nodes of consciousness, if human beings are little nodes of intelligence, intelligence nodes, that means that each of us need to think about our training data and optimization. I started mapping that out there. I realized that manifestation is about refining our inputs. Inputs can be both prompter and programmer level. We'll talk more about that if you join the program. And Josiah mentioned this earlier, that AI is is modeled after optimized natural intelligence, what he was saying is true, that AI AI programmers take the best of the optimized understanding of natural intelligence. That's animal intelligence and biological intelligence and human intelligence. So neural networks, different kind of algorithms that exist in the natural world, the best of it. Because in the natural world, there's optimized things, there's unoptimized things. They take the best examples of it and apply it to AI. And so it's quite like cyclical in a way. I'm like, you took the best of natural intelligence and applied it to AI. Now I'm going to do the best of what you applied to AI to apply it to my natural intelligence. I find that it's quite interesting to see that, and it creates structured, testable methods. The other thing that it does, I think this is massive. The other thing that it does is it detaches us, because when we're manifesting, we care so much about the outcome. Our love, our money, our career, our family, our health matters so much to us that the story takes over and the structure is gone. Like the emotional aspect takes over and the structure is gone. This allows us to have some space away from the emotional noise of what might be going on, and adding some structure to it helps you detach from it and be the author of the story. Because when you're in character mode and you're not paying, you're so in the simulation, you forget that you're actually the author. Which is really what we're trying to do in the real you, is get you back in that author seat and get you back into that. So that's what I think this is exciting, is that it helped me detach from the day to day. Oh, I have a fight with a friend, means absolutely nothing, because I know I can debug, refine this, and make it even stronger. Like that's why I say about the quantum leap, is that all the little irritations of the world end up being opportunities to debug and bring me up. So the little irritations cannot get me anymore. You know what I mean? So yeah. And I think Neville would be proud about that, because what he really wanted us to do is test this. And I can tell you, this approach has helped me test it. Because Neville wanted us to test it, because he's an experimenter at heart as well, having been around people like mystics like Abdullah and all the people that he was around, having studied his history. I know he was in a mystic among a group and trying all kinds of different exciting things. This is an opportunity to test it. And so just a little like a sneak peek of what concepts you might learn, you will learn and you will master actually when you're in the Real You program. One would be the very important idea of a feedback loop. It's not just that your thoughts create reality. It's that there's an input-output cycle that's happening. As Neville said, this world operates in the wheel of recurrence. It operates in a cyclical principle and a spiral principle, depending on if you're going upward. So the feedback loops, that's how AI learns. That's how applications learn, is through these feedback loops. And you will learn how feedback loops in your reality actually dictate the patterns that you have. Probability weighting. Have you noticed in your life, some things just seem like, that always happens to her. That always happens to me. Even if it's super unlikely for everyone else, it always happens that it happens to you. That's where probability weighting comes in. So when you look at AI programming, there's different weights that AI attaches to different algorithms or different like pieces of information or different information structures. So we can talk more about that, but the point, and different feedback loops. Probability weighting is an incredibly important aspect of why reality seems to bring the same patterns. Doesn't matter where in the world you're in, the same stuff seems to keep happening to you. System firewalls and filters. So the firewalls and filters are very important, because people will tell you, persist. And then you're doing the same technique over and over again, and it's not working. Persisting with the same input when there's a firewall is not going to do anything to you. You need to dissolve that firewall. You need to know that there's even a firewall in the first place. And that firewall, it could be as easy as, I'm not going to let that in ever because of what I went through when I was younger. And you're not even aware of it. So this can help you realize the firewalls and filters that you already have in place, dissolve or modify them. And then the idea of latent space. So when you open ChatGPT, it's actually it's in an infinite state, meaning whatever pops out, it could be anything. You choose a prompt, and from the possibilities that it has and the training data, it'll give you one of an infinite variations of an output that it could have. And so that's the same thing. The latent space that exists in AI or any other application is the same way that we operate. So we can these are the concepts that we will lay out, map out, add structure to explore that kind of up levels our understanding of the law of assumption, essentially.
Have you ever noticed that reality seems to have a little bit of a sense of humor? Or it's like perhaps just like a little bit cheeky at times? I'm going to give an example. This is not a personal story. This is a story that was shared with me. There was a woman who very much desired to have a child. She desired to become pregnant and have a child. And so, using manifestation techniques, she was like, okay, I'm going to imagine holding my baby for a photograph, right? Because, like, in her mind, that was like the end scene is like, oh, I now have this baby. I'm being photographed with my baby. And then a few days later, she's out and about with friends and she's introduced to someone who has recently given birth to a baby. And the, woman says, "Oh, would you like to hold my baby?" She's like, "Sure." And so she's holding the baby. And then another friend pulls out a phone and snaps her photo. It's not her baby, right? It's a baby. But the end result of the photo of her holding a baby was manifested. But the actual intention of getting pregnant and starting a family, it's almost like the simulation computer overlooked that and gave her kind of like this
Mm,
cheeky, right? So I give that story because it was top of
yeah.
mind, but I can look at my life and I can see times when I was like, oh, I'm going to manifest this. And then the simulation computer gives me something that's like almost that, but it's
Yeah.
almost like a sense of humor or a little bit cheeky.
Interesting. So to kind of unpack that, it's a really good case study and use case. First, I will say that systems value efficiency. So what they do is they give you the path of least resistance. So this used to happen to me constantly, what you just described. I'd be like, I'm manifesting this because Neville would say, pick a scene that implies what you want to happen. So I would pick it and I would imagine it. And then it would happen. And it was like, is life playing a cruel joke? Interestingly, systems don't have a sense of humor, although our consciousness might. Who has a sense of humor? It's our node consciousness. So this is what, in the example you said of the woman that took the picture of the baby, if her node of consciousness took that as, oh, that's perfect, that means that my manifestation is happening, that's not a cruel joke. If she could interpret that as, oh, that's awesome, that means my manifestation is going to happen for me, that ends up not being a cruel joke because her perspective completely changes how she reacts to that, the feedback loop, the probability weights. Her perspective takes that input and doesn't take it the wrong way. But like most human beings, we have a narrative structure that thinks that life is laughing at us. And I fully understand that. I used to feel the same exact way. I'm like, what do you mean? The same scene played out, but it did not get me what I wanted. So one, systems have a efficiency bias. They want to get you what you want as quickly, easily possible. So what they do is they go to the path of least resistance, the easiest way to get you what you want, the quickest way. It's your job as a reactor to reframe that, rework that, take that as an input and make it part of the narrative structure of your life, the encoding of your life to create. This is exactly what the system has done for me. So instead of seeing life playing a cruel joke, I say, oh, no, that's the only way that my system could give me that because I'm so freaking blocked in all these other ways. So let me take that as an opportunity to refine, debug, and go from there.
Brilliant. Okay. All right, next slide here.
There are immediate practical takeaways. We know already that actually the first one we already know. Hey, the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that you have change reality. So the inputs that we have are important, but I think it takes it to the next level. If you see yourself as a system, then even the inputs that you don't think matter. I'm talking about your 2 a.m. Reality TV binge. The gossip that you have with your friends. I'm talking about the inputs that you don't think matter. They matter because this is a system. It's mechanical. It's exact, and that's the responsibility that we take on once we awaken. Is that every input matters, and you can reframe input. That doesn't mean you. I love to indulge in vices, but I have to reframe them and reweight them in ways that make sense. The other takeaway is to identify your firewalls. Forget about. We've upgraded the language from limiting beliefs to firewalls, meaning shit that just blocked. And a lot of us have that in life where no matter what we do, it's just not happening. And that's a firewall. Don't let anyone gaslight you into telling you just persist with the same technique. No, you need to zoom out and you need to try something different. That's what this will give you, is an opportunity for a diagnostic that can identify firewalls that you have. And then you can work with probability weighting, meaning instead of allowing probability weighting to work against you, you can work with it. You can make things more probable in your reality. It's not about, hey, I want to manifest something. It's about making those kinds of experiences more probable so that no matter where you are in reality, the things that you actually want to happen become likely to happen constantly. It ends up being more than just one manifestation. It ends up being a mechanism to create the ideal everywhere you go. So you can be at a restaurant, you could be with your friends, you could be at the gym. You're getting treated in the way that you want because that's the likelihood that you're carrying around. I'm just more likely to be treated like the queen I am. I'm just more likely to be treated like the successful business owner that I am. And then if you look at reality, instead of, because I really struggled with this because I take things very personally. I'm very sensitive. So I took everything so personally. Reality is trying to ruin me. No, this helps me kind of zoom out and see it as a training structure system that I can detach from. And so I see this has incredible practical applications, even though this is a fun intellectual exercise as well. There's immediate practical applications here as well.
Yeah. So for those of you that are watching live on YouTube right now, this is an invitation for you to put any questions you might have. We're getting towards the end of the presentation here. So anything that's on your mind that you'd like to have Shweta speak to, go ahead and get those into the chat. And let's go ahead and get our next slide here. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, as a part of the program in terms of what you'll get, I know you're going to master the understanding of feedback loops. We just talked about this, probability weights, neural encoding, meaning, and not just brain, because I think that when we think of consciousness, it's so easy to go back to it's the brain. It's not. It's the whole body. It's more than that. It's expansive. Your natural intelligence is way more expanded than the human brain. So we'll see neural encoding beyond reprogramming the brain, neuroplasticity of the brain. We want to see it beyond that, and we'll be able to persist in a state, because that's the thing, that the state that we can kind of visit a state, in imagination. We can kind of visit it, enjoy it for a second, but then that's not our home. It doesn't feel right. It feels like a luxury vacation that we cannot go back to whenever we want to. But this helps us persist in that. And it helps us look at our intelligence as a system. That's what I call, cheekily, but I think it's a great term, natural intelligence operating system. That's why I call it that, because it helps us frame what is actually happening, instead of it being like, I didn't achieve what I wanted. No, my system needs to be upgraded. It's a bit more detached, and it's actually more accurate. So yeah, then I think there's one last slide. Essentially, what I see this is, it pairs really well with Josiah's work and your work about teaching someone how to become the author of their life and take on the brave, because it does take extreme bravery to take on that role of rewriting your life. And it can be good, bad, and ugly. But I see this pairing really well with that, which is why I'm so excited. I'm excited to be a part of your next 99-day series, because I think it pairs incredibly well with the work you're doing.
Excellent. Yes. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about the program here. I mean, we kind of hinted at it in some of the key ideas here, kind of the key perspective shifts. So the framework behind what inspired the program, these are interesting ideas. They're interesting words. They're interesting language frameworks, and they're made most practical when they're put into practice. So this is what inspired me to ask Shweta to bring this component of the 99-day Brave Mystic Training Bootcamp called The Real You. Okay, it's the Real You Brave Mystic Training. The Real You Brave Mystic Training has two components. I'm teaching authorship. And basic fundamental idea of authorship is being a masterful craftsperson of your ideal state. So many of us in the manifestation, reality generation, consciousness type communities, we go seeking techniques. But really, before getting into techniques, what we really need to do is have a masterful connection, a masterful understanding, connection, a deep dive inside, to go inside before we go outside, to go inside to really get a clear picture of our unique individual life purpose and potential. to turn that lens of awareness inwards on our own life story, on our origin story, where we came from, who we are, the thematic elements of our life to date, and then from there begin to craft a masterful narrative about who we can be in the world, how we can show up, how we can be of service to others, and how we can really live a life that is rich in meaning and purpose. So I'm bringing a 13-week authorship live training that's kind of like the script part of this whole program, the scripting part. And then Shweta's bringing what she's brilliantly described as the physics of the stage part. So if you consider that, everyone on planet Earth, we're all actors on a stage. All the world is a stage, as Shakespeare said. Okay, so each of us have the opportunity to act out our part to perfection. And that's really where this idea of authorship comes in. So that's my part of the training. And then understanding the physics of the stage, which is how we can masterfully interact with the intelligent system that is reality. That's where this natural intelligence optimization system program comes into play. That's Shweta's part of this. So I see in the chat, Jamie asks, can you talk a little bit about the logistics? Okay, so it is a boot camp, meaning that there is interaction every day. But I also understand that, this isn't an in-person retreat. It's life, right? We're all living lives. So these daily prompts are meant to be short but very potent. Okay, so you are engaging every day. If you're going to commit to the boot camp, you are engaging every day. But the prompts are masterfully designed to fit into your everyday life and to enable you to go about living your normal life, but with a new level of awareness and a daily prompt of how to apply what you're learning in the training to what's going on in real time, and a support structure for you to come back to the other people in the training and share about your experience so you can have the benefit of optimizing your real world interaction with these concepts in real time. It's kind of unlike anything we've done at the School of Imagination before in that regard, because it is so real time and designed in a boot camp type of way. So there's daily prompts every day, and there's 2 live classes per week. So I'm teaching on Tuesday nights. We moved it pretty late in the day Eastern time so that we can get as much of a time zone advantage as possible. My class will start at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday nights. Shweta will take Thursday nights, also 8:30 p.m. We'll go for about an hour. And it's, like I said, I'm teaching authorship. She's teaching natural intelligence optimization system. And between these 2 trainings, you're getting consistent weekly over an extended period of time focus on really accessing a new level of fluency in the language of reality creation. Why 99 days? Well, the whole idea that mystics teach is that we are not just to create and cast a vision, but we are to project it and hold it steady. Create an image, project it, and hold it steady. And 99 days, which is about 3 months, is about the perfect amount of time to hold an image steady and have ample gestation time, germination time. Who you are as you enter this program and who you are when you come out after 99 days of real world daily training, we're approaching this from the perspective of research, right? So we're documenting these transformations. That's how powerful we believe this is. So we're very excited to not only present this and lead this and go through it, but also to witness and document the transformations that occur in the people who join this program.
Yeah. It's great. That's what I'm excited about. That's what I'm most excited about.
It's truly exceptional. Yes. Okay. So Dr. Hall is saying Florence Scovel Shin referred to incidents like the woman having a photo taken of herself, holding the baby as cracked plates. Came from a story who wanted a new set of dishes. Okay, so you may have gotten me the reference for that. I had the story in my mind, but I was like, I didn't know where it came from. So yes, it may have been the Flossie story.
No, I love Florence because she understood divine intelligence incredibly well and syncing to it. She understood the syncing aspects of it, and she understood the ease of the mechanics. I love her so much. Flossie, as you would call her.
Yeah. So some people are asking about the details of the cost of the program. So that has not been announced yet, but the waiting list is open. So in the description, there is a link where you can join the waiting list. That way you'll be the first to know. We're finalizing some details about this. We want to make it accessible to as many people as possible, but to do that, we have to be kind of sophisticated about how we set it up. So those details are coming very soon, and this program is starting next month in April. Okay. Due to my appointment with officiating prayers every night, I won't be able to attend the live. Can I still make this work for myself? Yes. So you can access the recordings even if you're not on the live, and you'll still have the access to the daily prompts. So I think you'll still be able to participate and get a lot out of it. You would just have to be intentional about committing to catching the replays, right? Catching the recording.
Exactly. I've done that before. I've done programs where I had to join the replay. I noticed I got more out of it, and not meaning like in some ways, not black and white. In some ways, I kind of got more out of it because it felt like that idea had been like laid out, and I could process it in my own time, rewind, rethink, and then you can still engage with us in the Discord. So even if you aren't engaging with us live, you can always ask us follow-up questions in the Discord or wherever else. So I don't think that's an issue. As long as you have the info, we can always interact.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so more details coming soon, more of an announcement. This is just kind of an early preview. We wanted to give you all a chance to take a look at what Shweta's been working on here, and kind of a little preview of the program, the training. All right, Shweta, so any final thoughts here as we start to wrap up?
So I can say that this is just a tiny preview. For some reason, I'm like on a roller coaster of understanding so much more about the mechanics of reality using AI principles, but also I'm experimenting like crazy with these. So just think of whatever we're doing here as a learning, growing, iterative. Iterative is a concept where it essentially just means improvement. So you do one version, every version's better than the one before because we're changing it every time. That's what life feels like when you're working with the natural intelligence system. And also being a brave mystic, because I think that's what it takes. It does take being brave, requires intelligence. I know you've been in the Navy, I believe. I don't know. Or
Air Force.
Air Force. Sorry. Why did I get that confused? Sorry. So essentially being part of those kinds of spaces requires you to have intelligence. And that's what life is about. We can't just be passive. This requires like active understanding and intelligence. It takes a brave person to do this. And I can't wait to see who we work with.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. No, I make the joke about the whole Navy thing because it's, there's that little bit of a rivalry between branches.
It is. I know. I don't know why I said that with a brain fart.
That's all right. Yeah. So, when we first cast the vision for this training course, I was thinking about it like a basic training, like literally like a basic military training. And then I realized, BMT, basic military training. I was like, wait a second, no, it's actually brave mystic training. And I thought that was kind of interesting how that clicked into
BMT,
place. Because like you're saying, all of us are creating a reality all the time anyways, but to really take it on as a growth invitation, and to face the parts of ourselves that maybe have been hiding behind firewalls and, blocks or limitations, to really face that and to take it on and say, I really am going to express my potential. That requires courage. It truly requires bravery. And this training program is designed to be a support structure for doing that. So that's really the key of what we're bringing here.
Absolutely. And I'm glad because I honestly, I'm kind of a wuss in life. And this has helped me become the woman I want to be. It's allowed me to be brave in this way. And when I say I'm a wuss, I mean, like a lot of us the world can be scary. It can be confusing. There's so much chaos there that I needed a system to introduce some order here. So we need order out of chaos. And I think we're doing our part here too, to try to make that happen.
Yeah, very good. Cool. Thank you, Shweta, for taking the time to give us this preview. And there'll be, of course, a lot more coming, a lot more details being announced shortly as well. And thank you to everybody here on the live stream and just everybody who's been a channel member here. I really wanted to offer this as a preview to you all first, as a thank you for being here, for supporting the channel, for supporting the work, being on the journey with us. You all have been an amazing community for years now, and I just really appreciate that. So thank you for being here. Those of you that hopped on the live, thanks for being, being active in the chat and just kind of supporting this whole process. And I look forward to speaking to you all more about this, more details coming. Hop on that wait list if you're interested. And we look forward to speaking to you all again next on Tuesday night, where I will be previewing authorship. See you all for that. Until next time, my friends, imagine wisely, and I will see you all in the next.